Hi there class. This video tutorial is to introduce our next achievement standard 3.5, which I've titled the multisport phenomenon. This achievement standard assesses our sociology topic and sociology learning for term 1. And if you're not quite sure what sociology is, don't worry, we'll be going over that in the next few theory lessons. This is also a research-based assessment, so relies heavily on your ability to research and to write about your research findings. Before we begin looking at the requirements of the standard, we need to have a look at what is multisport before we can discuss any issues or trends or events even. We need to know what we're talking about. So for the purposes of our assessment, we're talking about any sporting activities that involve 2 or more disciplines. We can include events like triathlons, duathlons, Ironman, adventure racing, and activities can be a combination of any of the following: swimming, kayaking, cycling, mountain biking, running, walking, climbing, and some other things as well, depending on the event. So on the Ultranet, there is a copy of Achievement Standard 3.5 of the assessment task, and I've also left a photocopy up the front of the classroom for you to have a look at. I'd like you to get that paper copy now and have it in front of you. This is your opportunity to highlight any key points or to take some additional notes. The task that I've selected is for you to write a report for a sports magazine that critically examines an aspect of multisport and the impact that this has on New Zealand society. This assessment is for Achievement Standard 91502, which we will refer to as Achievement Standard 3.5, and the standard is to examine a current physical activity, event or trend or issue and its impact on New Zealand society. It is worth 4 credits, and the success criteria that you will be assessed against is just on the bottom of the first page. For achievement, you need to be able to examine a current physical activity, trend or issue and its impact on New Zealand society. To achieve with merit, you need to do this in depth, and to achieve with excellence, you need to make sure that your examination is critical. Please note that for all 3 success criteria, you must discuss the impact of your chosen event, trend or issue on New Zealand society. Please turn on to page 2, which breaks down the task and how you should structure your assignment. I'd like to look first at the task, which is written under task 2, because one of the things you need to do is choose to research either an event or a trend within multisport or an issue within multisport. You're not to do all 3 of these, you're to choose one or the other. And I've put some ideas on your assessment handout and also on the PowerPoint here of the sorts of things you could think about. So with the event, an actual event, you could do the one that we're working in, which is the Hawke's Bay Secondary School triathlons. You could look at a completely different type of triathlon with the Kids Weet-Bix triathlon, right to the very elite level with triathlon in as an Olympic sport, but also the Kona Ironman. Iron Māori is very popular in the Hawke's Bay, and this is actually where Iron Māori originated. And there are various adventure races around New Zealand and around the world that would be worthy of your investigation. Trends can sometimes be more difficult to identify because you've got to establish that there has been a growing change or a growing trend over a period of time. A few ideas that I've popped down here are around the rise of the professional athlete, growing participation numbers in multi-sport events, the growth of the professional circuit with athletes competing offshore for large sums of money. You'll see that all 3 of these examples have in common the fact that there is actually a change or a trend that has been identified. Finally, you could identify an issue within multisport. I've popped a few examples down here. So something like extreme training regimes and recognising that triathletes are people, not machines. The fact that recently we've experienced a rahui being placed on Mandora Pond, which has prevented us and other members of the public and community using the pond for recreational facilities, including competitive triathlons. You could look at the way that government money is distributed on elite sport, and particularly with triathlon, as in other sports, is dependent on the performance in those sports. Or you might choose to investigate the cost of being a triathlete, which can be a very expensive hobby. There are a series of planning sheets which are designed to help you, first of all, decide on your topic, but also to do your initial brainstorming and thinking and starting to guide your research so that you end up with a good critical examination of the topic that you have chosen. At the bottom of page 2, we have this little table which is designed to help you structure your assignment and think about what needs to be done. So for task 1, the planning, this is not actually assessed, okay, but this is required for you to do in order to complete the activity. And we also have a deadline for your planning sheets to be submitted, which is by Friday the 13th of March. Now this isn't that far away, it's not this coming Friday but the following Friday. For task 2, this is where you write your report, and there are 2 really important parts of this. You need to do your critical examination of your topic, okay, and for merit you need to do that in depth, and for excellence you need to make sure that your examination is critical and challenges assumptions, those sorts of things. But you also need to look at the impact of your event, trend or issue on New Zealand society. This little table here gives you a few ideas of the sorts of things that you need to think about, the sorts of questions that you need to ask in your planning stages, and almost you could use them as a bit of a checklist to think about whether you've covered these as you're reviewing your final product. These are the overall conditions for the assessment process. First of all, I'd like to point out the dates. The final date for this is in the last week of term, in fact the last day of term, Thursday the 2nd of April. We will also negotiate a date for you to submit a draft that I can mark and provide feedback for you. You need to collect as much information as possible, and I've suggested that you use BlendSpace as a space to do this. There is a tutorial also on the Ultranet that will talk you through how to use BlendSpace. We will be doing some activities in class to help with our understanding and learning, but you will have 6 lessons of class time during the unit, the first 3 to help you with your initial planning and research, and the final 3 that you can have towards your final write-up. Of course, your work must be your own. You're welcome to share discussion, perhaps even share some data, survey data, interview information, that sort of thing. But in terms of your write-up, you need to make sure that that's your own and that it's in your own words. This is an example of one of the planning sheets. For the planning task 1.1a, you only need to do one of these. So if you've chosen an event, you do the one that is about an event. If you've chosen a trend, you do that one. If you've chosen an issue, you do that one. The idea is you would also add other questions onto this planning sheet, and this would form the start of your research journey. As always, it's really important to think about what you're being assessed on, and you can find this information here in the example assessment and marking schedule at the end of the document, but also under the page that's titled Useful Terminology. This will explain the different type of expectations, particularly for merit and excellence level. There's also an example of research into a multisport event, which is the Coast to Coast, and it will be worthwhile you reading through there to have a look at expectations right at the start. So that concludes our little video tutorial introducing Achievement Standard 3.5. I hope that you have a good chance to read through this document and write down any questions that you have so the next time we meet each other I can answer these for you.